This is day 807 of the Arukh HaShulchan. Our sponsor are covering Shir more the Arukh HaShulchan. Please call me directly. Very greatly appreciated. Today we are doing Siman Tuf Kuf Vav Hey Tuf Kuf Zayin Hey. Hey, Kosovo Ramam Peres so Peres Apulish Emak Bihin Chumus Maisis Yontif, even though does not take off Chumus and Maisis on Yontif. Imayulo Chumus and Maisis Mishik Biam Emish, if you have Chumus and Maisis, which he did take off the previous day, then Haray some Malichan Coin Beyontif. You can take him to coin on Yontif. Answer him Chala Zol Chaim Keba, Shulchan Coin Beyontif, goes without saying that Chala and the parts of the animal which go to the Kohen, the arm and the cheeks and the stomach, they remain the Kohen on Yontif. Akan Lashono. Klomar, Sharehem Mutal Rishim Yontif, Shenlio Shayom. All these things you can take off on Yontif when it's the dough is needed today. If you don't need a dough on Yontif, you can take off challah from it. But if you needed a dough on Erev Yontif, it's usher to take off the challah on Yontif. And Mishmur adds, even if you forgot to take it off, it's still not a sufficient excuse. Once it's taken off, it turns into Kohen. Mutar feel will be mutar, even if you took it off from yesterday, much because the Rambam, like the Rambam wrote. Mishmur says that, but with our challah, which is telling me anyway, then the story about a case where you finished all the lisha from Erev Yontif, they can't take off on Yontif. But if he had to finish the lisha on Yontif, let's say if he began to do lisha on Yontif, and therefore he can take off the challah on Yontif. It says by challah Torah, if we had such a thing, and if you started the lisha from Erev Yontif, you can't take it off on Yontif. I'm not sure why the difference. It's not explained here. The Mishnah Berurah says that if you take it to Kohen theoretically, he even goes with just arriving, obviously, because you're allowed to do that for the purpose of Yontif, and this would be a purpose for Yontif. Vafil b'Shabbos mutar licha with Kohen, but even on Shabbos, allowed to take it to a Kohen to pass ofri v'roy la'achila. If it's suitable to eat, it's obviously it's not eat. We can't suitable to eat. It's not baked. It's a muktzah. Of course, as Mishnah points out, there's a place where there's an eruv. That Arei Hushal Kohen belongs to the Kohen, but Shalom doesn't know, giving him his own thing. So it's not giving a gift on Shabbos. Matanos mutar b'Shabbos feeling nishlam erev Yontif. The matanos, which are a different status than challah and truma, obviously. The Zorah Chaim Keva, you can take off even if the Shechita took place on Erev Yontif. So what do you do with the dough which is already needed from yesterday? We didn't take off challah. Eretz Yisrael, if it's in Eretz Yisrael, you're not allowed to eat it without taking challah. All you can do is knead another dough today, and put them, connect them to each other, put them next to each other, and take challah on the two doughs, from the dough which is was prepared today. Shartian says if it was if it was yesterday, then it's also betiltul. But that's no, that's Sunday. Yeah, but I don't know why, because obviously I have this eitzah. It shouldn't be also betiltul. Mishnah Berurah says also that to make the other new dough, it's only if you need it or you want to eat fresh bread. Mishnah Berurah also says that according to that on the Mechaber Baskin, that in the Ordeh Siman Shalom Chavei, the two doughs that have in each one of them the shear of challah, you don't have to put them in the same vessel, nor they have to touch. Just put both of them in front of you, and take off from one on the other. But here too, if each one has a shear of challah, you don't have to put them in the same vessel or connect them. Mishnah Berurah also says that um, this is specifically talking about where the second one also has shir challah. I guess it's less shir challah. But it doesn't have shir challah. Second one, but it only if you join it with the first one, you join it the first one which has a shir challah. It's also, I guess. That's from it in itself. There'd be no chiyav challah, so therefore to take it off, and the one which has chiyav challah yes would be forbidden. But some people make it even if it doesn't have a shir. And of course, in this case, you have to put in the same basket. It says the makam chak, you can be makel, and of course it means that even has less than a shear to use it to take off on the other dough. Achel chutzlaretz, but in chutzlaretz kaimon chalas chutzlaretz ochel b'chag mafresh, where we hold you can eat and then take off the challah afterwards. Yochel kol yom me'apas lo fresh challah, you can eat for the entire day without taking off challah. Yinich ma me'apas yosem yishir challah, and you should leave a little bit over from the bread. More than shir challah. At night, take off the challah, and then the coin, give it to the coin, or you spend a complement again, or burn it as is our minhag. You don't have to leave from the dough that reflection there. Answer Shem Yitzhak. You don't leave anything raw dough. You can bake the entire bread. Even though some of the bread is challah. Which you can't eat, it's not a problem. Because the part of challah is not distinct in and of itself. Not like he who wanted to forbid this. However, says no, you should be choishish not to bake the entire dough. Just leave a little dough which you're not going to bake until after Yontif, and that should be from that dough you take off challah. Also for the first dough. But if you did bake it, you're still allowed to the entire dough. You're still allowed to eat it and leave a little bit, which you can make the challah after Yontif. Back to Arukh HaShulchan, the person who does aser, who says you can't bake the entire bread, is badam al isa chetz shav chetz any Yehudi. So that's supposed to draws a parallel between our case and the case of a dough which is half of a Jew and half of a non-Jew, not to bake. There's no comparison. You're allowed to take off challah today, right? So none of it is actually challah yet. If it did happen that you did take off from dough a little bit of challah for erev yontif, also if it's to be yontif, can't bake that challah on yontif, can't share with achil because you can't eat it. In brackets, it brings down mashkosim again once you can have being erev pesach challah Shabbos shachal afrish b'challah. If it's erev pesach which happened on Shabbos, you forgot to take off challah. On his brother Simon Taf Mamadal, Siyat Ishmai Ayin Shem has already been clarified before what do you do with the chametz issue. Zayin Kosev Turk Shapir Shachala B'Yontif Lo Yisvenim Yad. The Torah says if you take off the challah Yontif, do not burn immediately. And then Chen Laila, wait till nightfall. Chen Kosar Be'er B'Yis Yosef Sital. So Shona. And so this by it's a Mavish Challah B'Yontif Yitmeya. Somebody said it takes off challah on Yontif, and that challah is tomei. His bracket says here, such as in our day and age when we're all tamei. So you should not bake it, not burn it. You don't burn kachim on yontif, including challah. You leave it until nightfall and then you burn it. Mr. Brewer says that it's also to carry the challah which you are mafresh on yontif. Nevertheless, if you call the name, call designated challah, and it's still in your hand, before you put it down, you're allowed to put it anywhere you want, and leave it there until chol moed, and then burn it. Mr. Brewer says all this is in the challah of Eretz Yisrael, which is also the Tmeim, or a chutzah is a place where there is no minute to give it to a kohen who's tar, or a place there's no kohen. But in a place where they did have the minute to give a kohen, and there is a kohen, you'll have to bake it for him, obviously, because he can eat it. Okay, I don't think any place actually has a minute to give challah to a kohen who's torah today. Um, but Arukh HaShulchan asks you, ain't sermon kachim b'layla. It says here that you should leave it till nightfall and then burn it, but we don't burn kachim at night. Kabur reish psachim mizvachim. People is a gedolim. The Rebbe has a discussion of this. It's he says it's clear that truma is different because we have a Mishnah which says that you can burn the oil of truma tmeya at night. See the truma you can destroy at night. Ein sham, but it says you sham Shabbos ish perik beis barak b'shitus that asked straight out. If that was the case, that you can't burn kosher at night, you shouldn't be allowed to burn shemen tzreifa at night, but shemen of truma which came to night. But we know that you can. There's an implication tomorrow. So it's clear it's mutzah by truma to burn it at night. That's true about challah as well. Rambam said the ein lalik shemen tzreifa yontiv, and the Rambam you don't find this halacha any halacha that you're not allowed to burn shemen tzreifa on yontiv. So that's necessarily disagree, I guess. Ches mutar asos b'yontiv pitin gedolim. You can make on yontiv large pieces of bread, large loaves of bread. We're not concerned. As a result, you're going to come to make more than you need. If you had flour or dough as a partnership with a non-Jew, also lafosa beyond you're not allowed to bake on yontiv. Ella yichakena v'yofa es shelo. You can divide in half and bake only your part. But the people tell echad shmuta ma'osa tana pas the nation call much pas much. They say even if it's one oven where you're allowed to fill the entire oven because it enhances the bread. Some nation complain is a pashiyitza. Because you can the final analysis you can eat of any bread that you want. You can choose any one of them. Hashem is supposed to hear. But you can't take the bread, which is going to break, I'm a non-Jew, and eat it. Sharatzin says that you can answer, I think it's Pashut. He believes it's Sarachim. I think it's Pashut. That if it's one, even half a Jew and half of the non-Jews, it's not even mutzah if you're baking one large loaf. Okay? It seems, I think it's showing implicitly says that. Bishop says, another distinction, that if it's all his, maybe guests will come and he's going to be able to give it to them on yontif. But here, half of it's non-Jews. He can't give the guest the non-Jews part. According to this logic, it's clear that even if he can eat any one he wants, in the case where it belongs to the goy, such as where the goy doesn't compelled to take a specific part for himself immediately after baking, but just he can eat and leave the rest over, and the guy will take it then. It's also awesome because it's the final analysis. He has to leave the non-Jew his part. A person has a lot of clean bread, superior bread. He cannot bake another bread. Unless you have members of your household who normally give a lower grade bread. We have to bake for them. On the contrary, is a lot of bad bread. You can bake clean bread afterwards. Can do it deliberately. It requires it. Also, all he has is yesterday's bread. He can bake today. Because today's bread is better than yesterday's bread. Which the Brura says that that only if the other bread is from the same type. That is an issue. But if it's a different type, even if it's an inferior type, such as his bread is wheat and he wants to bake bread of other grain, that's permissible. Arukh HaShulchan says only permissible if you have people who are accustomed to eating that. Which just says that it sounds like, I'm sure Steve contradicts himself next case because he says that if the people are not accustomed to eat lower quality bread, but just this one time he got to give them to eat, that's not considered that he needs a lower quality bread. So Mishnah Berurah says also that if you want to have fresh bread, you can even bake it was inferior bread for that purpose. And even if yesterday's bread was a clean bread and today's a non-clean bread, it's still okay to do because the value of fresh bread trumps the quality of the bread. Test. Also, we can't make sourdough only with the shino. You can make sourdough, which is the starter from Erev Yontif. Even though there's a difference by taking off challah, whether it was needed today or not needed today, or there's a new thing. Well, so therefore, let's see what Mishnah Berurah says on this. Mishnah Berurah says that we should know that this svara, it would seem to be according to the second opinion in Tav Tzadik Hey, that also by Ochel Nevesh we're machmir if it doesn't lose its taste at all if you make an Erev Yontif. Belacha writes that the opinion of the Mechaber is that sourdough you can't make because on Yontif because you normally make it for over a long time, not just for Yontif itself. Okay, in any event, the next line is here. By taking off challah, there's difference whether it was needed today or needed yesterday. Like we said in terms of giving this oil chayim keva, you can set them aside for designated for the kohen, even if the animal was slaughtered at Yontif. No impediment to eat the animal if he doesn't take them off. The chorus of the Atzum, also they are recognizable and distinct unto themselves. Yeah. Tough Kusain, didn't have to be Yontif. Baking on Yontif. Aleph, Kasa Rabbeinu, Reis Yosef, if open beporni, you can bake in a porni, are large ovens, PM which have the mouth on the side, it's not a new oven. Says, and that's even if you made the fire in the oven from before you have to begin, you still can't bake in that oven on Yontif. The Chashir Shemati Parches, we're afraid that the oven might collapse. You pass it alechem, and you're going to lose the bread. But you're going to have to refrain from Simchas Yontif. You can also heat up hot water in an antichi. It's a large pot, like an urn, I guess. And this is the Gemara. Normally the ovens were small. And about Porni, Porni was a large oven like ours. So it's kind of it's not at too much of a tikkun to bake in a large oven. Shabbos says only if you require a lot of bread, and to have guests, etc., or if he doesn't have a small oven. Okay, but so in any event, only concerns by a new one that it might get collapse. Our ovens are constructed differently. We don't have this problem. And also by us, but before they bake it, anyway, they bake it before that several times in order to dry out the oven. But the idea of antichi is also, it's a very large pot. It's not considered to be too much anticha. Also, I might have thought that since the heat retains the heat till tomorrow, it's like designating something for a weekday. Second day Yontif. That we don't take that into account as an issue. Base. Fine, it's Barba Sim Tav Kufalif. We already explained. The 18 Shnoshim Radeka B'Yontav, wood which fell off the tree on Yontav. Also, Sikon, we're not allowed to use them for fire, for fuel, Mitam Molav, Muktzah Minola, because it's both Muktzah and Nolat. However, if they fell into the oven directly, you can add wood which has been prepared for Yontav, and negate them in a majority. Even though we normally don't deliberately negate a prohibition, here since the prohibited substance is about to be burnt out of existence, and the benefit comes afterwards, I'm not concerned about Barov, and we negate a majority, continue Yavish as a simple majority, as any Yavish, dry mixture, times and that reason, we're also not concerned that it's a Darvish Shishmatir would become Mutter after Yontif. Besides the primary prohibition is to Rabbanan anyway, so therefore, Rabbanan were Makel. But you have to be careful not to touch them until they are nullified. So it says, even though at the time you add on more wood, the muktzah wood word wobbles. We're not considered. That's not concern us because that's like titul min atzad, indirect carrying. Negiah lab dafka muktzah. Negiah, the Arukh HaShulchan points out, the issue is never negiah because there's no specific prohibition to touch muktzah. Rather that you shouldn't cause them to vibrate. In the brackets, he says here's something which we won't understand, but it says Al Kushta Magavas Yukhan Gimel. Tastes Psachim by Tomal Dagan Rokon Rabbi Kiveger. Evidently, that the whatever Magavram asked is negated. Gimel Rabbeinu Ramakos Av the Kshemar Balem Eitzim Muchanim. Shlo you eight I'd say Nikorim. When you add on more wood, then the wood which is also should not be recognizable. Tamo is reasons calling you Bito it's a better. All kinds of negating Isser and Hatter Kenu Shlo Nikor. That the Isser should not be recognizable. The Menikah is recognizable. Eno Bata, it's not Bata. Feel Echabel, even 1 in 1,000. Which time you're there, Simon Sadiches. Come, nevertheless, the issue is some say the Afi Nikorim May Batalim, even though you can recognize them, they're Bata. There's Magavrami and Yam Shlema. Sheikama Kulas Ikilu Bitlos every time the Isra Mitzvah. Because we have several Kulas we're making in this specific area because they're about to be burnt. And he says the Rashba says explicitly they don't have to be totally unrecognizable. He says in brackets here again we won't understand without looking inside. Really, Rayel is a Shabbos Chof Tessa in Shab. This is proof that. Those who want to say they came time after Mishum the Isra Meli Sarif. So I say it's the reason for the leniency is because this is about to be burnt. Vanov Tavolu Acharkach, and the benefit will come afterwards. Connect on, therefore you can't heat yourself opposite the warmth of the wood of this fuel. The Hanoah Ba come close straight from the sun because that benefit comes before they're finished burning up. It would say the warmth comes from that which is already burnt. Nevertheless, to use them for illumination. Come close to a sun, which is certainly I know it comes before they're finished burning, because then they don't produce any light anymore. Thus, that would be forbidden. Bill says that much most of the place is like that, but he says he's not clear why. It's possible because stam seem are intended fuel to bake or to cook, and the noah after they're destroyed, chachamim allowed, and they allowed you even to mix it and negate it. So in that case, the wood is mutter like any other prepared wood. I guess we're talking about a case where it was negated, obviously. I must be talking about such a case. So, and therefore, why would it be a problem to use it for illumination? And the Arukh HaShulchan himself rejects there being a problem with illumination because the Atu also let us know can you not have an automatic hanoah for muktzah? We're not actually doing something, or so Mishabur says when you ignited the fire beheter in order to bake, you're certainly allowed to derive benefit from the light, because that's automatic hanoah. But he says to ignite them in order to use the light, that is forbidden. It's like hanoah b'yadayim. In any event, Arukh HaShulchan continues, says, right, any Yehudi saw a non-Jew lit a Jew's candle, for the I'm sorry, the tzorcha, for the benefit of the Jew. No, sorry, for the benefit of the non-Jew, for his own purpose. The Jews allowed to use the light. And it's until the only prohibition is carried. That which not allowed to have benefit when the non-Jew lit it for a Jew, because the malach was done for him. For him. For him. Those who hold, however, the muksa usr by noach, much time in tough kufav, tzorch ir, those who hold the muksa usr by noach, that's a problem. Hey, the chol kula sheikilu, b'zeh hainu b'isa muksa d'rabbanan. All this is talking about the Issa Muktzah Tony Drabban. Ava Bisra Chana, which is the rice of Loikil. Therefore, if they fell on in an oven on Shabbos, also you can't light them even the next day Yontif. I feel like they bit the brov even by negating them. They in Shabbos make Yontif because Shabbos cannot prepare for Yontif. Here where they got cut, they came off the tree, they were being prepared for Shabbos. Yontif Shabbos Atzon Terech HaSukkah. Shabbos itself, you can't ignite them. So it's all prepared for tomorrow. The other says that this, not everybody goes to the Sfara. The Bach says that other poskim seem to indicate that this Chana issue is only the Rabbanan. Moshe seems to also be make all that it should be bought the Rov, but not the Arukh HaShulchan. And therefore the other converse. They fell into the oven on Yontif, which came out on Erev Shabbos. The next day, you need them to be fuel to be ignited by a non-Jew. But for a sick person in any other place where it's okay, mutter, that's permissible. The Halacha says in that case mutter even without bittul, because all the was muksa anyway. I'd say heter also muksa, and that because it's sorech, so that's true also for the muksa wood. But Arukh HaShulchan says that in this case is mutter the underloich in the Shabbos atzma. The Yontif didn't prepare for Shabbos, rather for itself. The Yontif mutter b'asar. The Yontif is allowed to make a fire. The Yeshua Nagam Shabbos is atzma. The Son say also Shabbos prepares for itself when the Shabbos comes first. The person who is in danger, it would have been mutter to make the fire. Beloved, Arukh HaShulchan doesn't accept this. Says I don't understand this. Again, but look on muksa calling on him. Should be any muksa. Because everything is mutter. Tzarchim. Not sure what to do with this question. Regardless, it is forbidden when Shabbos precedes Yom Tov.